We had a issue with connection, but we are going to make sure that we get this out. We are going to make sure that we connect together as brothers and sisters in Christ. And you all know how we do. You all know to jump back on if there is some issue with the live. And so I'm going to give you opportunity. I see you all coming back in. So come back in, come back in. I think when we cut out, it was about 30 of you on. So we'll give you some time. I see the numbers climbing back up. We're back to 11, 12. You all keep coming in. 13. You all coming in. 16. Get in the comment section. Let me know that you're back. And that you can hear us. And this thing this thing is messing with us, but me and Lions, we gonna get this out. We gonna get this out, and we gonna pray tonight. Uh, yeah, we gonna pray tonight. Bernadette's back. I see you. Rayanne is back. Good to see you, Miss Rayanne. Sister Cynthia is back. Hilda's back. Sister Roseanne is back. Steve is back. Debbie says good evening. Miss May Lee is on. Toy says we are back. Treasure says back. So you all continue to come in. And I'm going to let Patrick pick back up where he left off when the stream cut out on us.
Absolutely, Rev. Really, what it boils down to is, in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of trauma, those experiences that alter thinking, those experiences that alter perceptions of life. We have to have a well balanced approach and address these things head on. And really, Rev, what we intend to do, especially on tomorrow and spending time with our young people, is create a platform where they can be heard, create a safe space where they can express concern, fears, emotions, and address some of it, but some of it just needs to be out. We want to get away from internalizing unhealthy feelings, unhealthy ideologies, internalizing fears that often go unaddressed. And so, really, this time, especially with the freshness of the wound, it's really imperative that we create a safe space. Create a safe space for communication, create a safe space for support, create a safe space for not just the supernatural. As the church, God is a supernatural God, but He never neglected the needs and necessities of the natural. And so our approach is really to create a safe space for there to be open communication, but within that, we will apply the supernatural to it, so that we're not isolating spiritual part, we're not isolating natural part, but we're bringing the two together to walk through these things. You know, scripture talks about, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, reminding us that there will be seasons of going through, and this is one of them. We wish all of us pray it would have been avoided, but it is here. And since it's here, we serve a God who can help us address that and navigate that. And then, even in that, Rev, we want to be a support to parents who now have big decisions to make. Because the reality is, many parents are going to be praying about where their child goes to school from this point forward. Many parents are going to be praying about, do I homeschool? Many parents are going to be praying about different concerns and things like that. And we want to create that platform where that can be addressed, both on a spiritual standpoint, but also on a mental and emotional standpoint. So all the dimensions of who we are as human can be tapped into.
Man, I so greatly appreciate you sharing that. And those of you who may have missed that, step one as we look to respond to all that unfolded on today is what Patrick is talking about is us creating a safe space for our young people. And you know that they've already been meeting on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And so tomorrow is going to be a time for us to sit with them and to use the language that our dear brother just shared is that we want to create a safe space for the things that he said for communication as well as support. And just so you know, Patrick is uniquely skilled. He has worked with the most troubled children to children who are extremely gifted. He has spent the last decade of his life working with some of the hardest cases and working around mental health and working around deep emotional issues. And so he brings a wealth of experience to this conversation. He brings a wealth of resources to this conversation. And this is going to be an opportunity for us just to hear from our kids. And you'll find that they are impacted different ways. Trauma is challenging. Trauma is really tricky to work through. Sometimes reactions are delayed. Times, kids, as they are reliving events like happened today, it might not be so much the event today that's a problem, but the event triggers some other issue that they had years ago. And so there are some necessary conversations that we need to have. But one of the things that Patrick said that's so important is that we want to create a safe space so that we can hear from them and not just go into it saying you need this, you need Jesus. No, 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 no. What are you feeling? What did you see? What are you dealing with at the moment, and giving them strategy to actually process what they are dealing with. And so step one for us tomorrow is really going to be just about getting some of those kids connected to our church, but also we want to open it up because you may have some young people that you are connected to, and you want them to have an opportunity to share in a safe space tomorrow, 6 o'clock, CC Nation, at the Wayne Park Baptist Temple. We would invite you to come to the parking lot side. Patrick, that's going to be at 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep, 6 o'clock. We want to invite you to come, bring your kids, and let's have an opportunity for healing. Let me say this from a pastoral perspective. The purpose of myself being on tonight, and even what Patrick is going to be doing tomorrow, is not for us to pontificate about political issues. We're not going to be talking about what could have happened, what should have happened, what the parents aren't doing, what the school administrators should be doing. That's not our conversation. There's a lot of people who are offering their opinions on that. And I want you to understand something. You've heard me say this oftentimes, but I'm gonna come back to it. I read a book called The Eight Paradoxes of Leadership. Tim Elmore talks about the difference between complicated issues and complex issues. Complicated issues are static and they have one solution. Complex issues have evolving issues, so that when you deal with one, there is another that creeps up out of nowhere. Complexity is dealing with an evolution of multiple issues that come from one place from another. And so we're dealing with something complex, not complicated. And so it's not going to help us to have conversations that it's the parents' fault. It's the teacher's fault. It's the police fault. It's the politician's fault. That's not our conversation. We are here, and so we've got to figure out how to help those who we have influence over and we are connected to, and we've got to deal with complex issues, because if you want to ask me where is the real issue, I would say that there's problems with each and every one of those parties that I mentioned. And then on top of that, there is the spiritual dynamic, because those of you who are on today, you need to be reminded, I am a pastor. I am a spiritual leader. That is my area of expertise. And the Bible that I preach from says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And so one of the perspectives and the lenses through which I view this through is not just through a social lens or through a political lens or through a or even a psychological lens, but I bring a spiritual dynamic to this conversation. And so we need to make sure that we are engaging what Patrick said is a holistic conversation around the spiritual needs, the mental needs, the emotional needs, the physical needs of our young people, because complexity requires us to address them in all of these areas. And I want to be clear on that, because there's a lot of people that got a lot to say about what could, what should, what they would do. And that's not the nature of this conversation. The nature of this conversation is to our young people, to our parents, that you are hurt spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And we want to know how we can work with you to get to a point of healing, because this is going to require process. These young people have seen some things, and dysfunction has been normalized for them. And we've got to show them the other side, what can be. Of some of these young people, they are wrestling with deep anxiety, but they don't have language for it. They're wrestling with deep depression, but they don't have language for it. They're wrestling with suicidal thoughts, but they don't have language for that. And so as we wrestle with these deep issues, Patrick is not just skilled in leading in these conversations, but what is going to happen is we understand our role as spiritual leaders, but we also understand there is a point at which we defer. And so there is going to be a certain point in which we are going to engage those who are experts in the mental makeup of people, and those who can speak to the psychological issues. And we're going to bring therapists in, because it's not a either or conversation, it's a both and. If this is a community issue, we need experts who specialize in various areas of the community to speak life to this situation, because it doesn't make sense for us to argue, fuss, and fight about whose fault it is while we've got young people wrestling with emotional wounds that will follow them for the rest of their life if we don't deal with them. And so Patrick is going to be starting phase 1 of this on tomorrow. I want to give you just a couple other dates, and then I want to hear from Patrick pertaining to what I just said. On Saturday, we're going to be taking our young men down to Buffalo, and we're going to be purchasing those suits for those young men. We're going to utilize some time in that travel, either pre or post, and we're going to have some conversations with them. On Sunday, immediately after Palm Sunday service, I will be meeting with our young people, and I was already going to be leading them in a conversation on what it means to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. This has now just entered into my conversation that I'm going to be having with our young people on Sunday. I need you to understand, my conversation with them on Sunday is going to be pastoral. I am a pastor. I'm going to be talking about how Jesus meets our need. I'm going to be talking about how God speaks to our issues. And from a pastoral perspective, I'm going to be walking our young people through some of these issues Sunday immediately after service. And so if you want your young people to sit directly with me after church, I'm going to be meeting with a group of them, and Patrick will have them Wednesday. We'll have the boys on Saturday, taking them to Buffalo, and then I'm going to meet with our entire youth ministry